The silence in the dining room felt like thunder. Every eye turned toward me as my daughter Rachel stood there holding up a white envelope like it was some kind of trophy. Her lips curved into a smile I had never seen before. Cold. Calculated. Mean. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments which city or state you're watching from. It helps me connect with you. Also hit that like button if you think families should teach gratitude, not entitlement, and that relationship matter more than inheritance. The papers are signed, she announced loud enough for everyone to hear. Starting today, this house has a new owner. She paused and looked directly at me. My mother is now just a guest here. The words hit me like a slap across the face. The fork I was holding clattered onto my plate. Around the table, 12 guests froze mid-bite. Wine glasses stopped halfway to lips. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The chandelier above us seemed to dim, as if even the light wanted to hide from what was happening. I built this house. Every brick, every board, every single thing in it came from 40 years of scrubbing floors and baking bread at 3 in the morning. 40 years of putting coins in a jar, because we were too poor for a real savings account. And now my own daughter was telling me I was a guest in my own home. Rachel walked closer to the table. Her heels clicked on the wooden floor I had chosen myself. The floor I paid for by cleaning toilets in houses bigger than mine. She placed the envelope right in front of my plate. "It is nothing personal, Mom," she said. Her voice tried to sound sweet but came out like poison. "At your age, taking care of a big house like this is just too much. I thought it would be better for everyone if I took over. You understand, right?" Understand. That word echoed in my head like a bell ringing in an empty church. I understood plenty. I understood that my daughter had forged my name on legal papers. I understood that she had waited for this exact moment with all these people watching to humiliate me. I understood that she thought I was stupid enough to just accept this. But what Rachel did not know was that I already knew everything. I had known for 4 months. Since the day I came home early from the grocery store and heard her on the phone in the study planning this whole thing. Since I found papers hidden in my own dresser with a signature that looked like mine but was not. Since I heard her laugh and tell someone on the phone that I was too old and too trusting to fight back. I said nothing at that dinner table. Not one word. I just stood up slowly. My hands did not shake. My voice did not crack. I folded my napkin and placed it gently next to my plate. I picked up my purse from the back of my chair. Everyone stared at me. Rachel had that triumphant smile plastered on her face. My son Daniel sat next to her staring at his mashed potatoes like they were the most interesting thing in the world. Coward. That is what he was. He knew what his sister was doing and said nothing. I walked toward the front door. Each step felt heavy but strong. I could feel their eyes burning into my back. The silence followed me like a shadow. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said a word. I opened the door and stepped outside into the cold December night. The door closed behind me with a soft click. I stood there on the porch breathing in the freezing air. My porch. My house. My life. Inside I heard Rachel's phone ring. Once. Twice. Then her voice changed. "Hello." She did not sound confident anymore. "What?" "No. That cannot be right. There must be some mistake." I smiled to myself. A small smile nobody could see. Because that phone call was exactly what I had planned. Every single detail of this night had been carefully arranged. Including that call. I walked to my car parked in the driveway. The driveway I had saved for 3 years to pave. Past the rose bushes I planted when my husband Thomas was still alive. Past the stone walkway we installed together one summer. I got in the car and closed the door. Only then did I let my hands shake. Just a little. Not from fear. From rage. From power. From knowing that Rachel had no idea what was coming for her. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I had been saving for this exact moment. "Miss Turner," I said when she answered. "This is Margaret Collins. It just happened exactly like we planned. Time to move forward." "Are you absolutely sure, Mrs. Collins? Once we take the next step, there is no going back." "I am completely sure. I want my daughter to know what it feels like to lose everything." I hung up. I put the phone in my purse. I started the car and looked one last time at the living room window. I could see shadows moving inside. Rachel was probably panicking. Daniel was probably still sitting there doing nothing like always. I drove through the empty streets with no destination in mind. My hands gripped the steering wheel tight. The city lights blurred past the windows. I needed to drive. To think. To remember how I got here. It all started 4 months ago on a Tuesday afternoon in August. I had gone to the supermarket, but forgot my shopping list at home. I came back earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I went upstairs and heard voices coming from the study. The door was open just a crack. Something in those voices made me stop. Made me listen. It was Rachel on the phone. "I am telling you it will work perfectly," she was saying. "She does not suspect anything. She is too trusting. Too naive." My heart started beating faster. "Just forge the signature on the notary documents like I asked. Make it look real. Nobody is going to check those papers until it is way too late." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Forge my signature. What was she talking about? "Once the deed is in my name, she cannot do anything about it," Rachel continued. "And if she tries to fight back, we'll just make her look like a confused old woman who does not know what she is saying. At her age, it is easy to convince people she is losing her mind." The words cut through me like knives. Confused old woman. Losing her mind. My own daughter was talking about me like I was garbage she needed to throw out. I backed away from that door quietly. I went downstairs without making a sound. I left the house and sat on the garden bench. The same bench Thomas built before he died from cancer 6 years ago. I sat there and cried. I cried like I had not cried since Thomas passed away. But after the tears, something else came. Something cold and sharp. Anger. Not the kind of anger that screams and breaks things. The kind of anger that thinks, that plans, that waits for exactly the right moment to strike. I dried my face. I stood up. I made a decision. If Rachel wanted to play this game, then fine. But I would play it smarter. That same afternoon, I went to the bank. I made copies of every single document about the house. Original deeds. Proof of payments. Everything showing that this property was mine, and only mine. I put it all in a safety deposit box at a different bank where Rachel would never think to look. Then I hired a private investigator. His name was James Mitchell. He was in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Collins," he said after I explained everything, "what you are describing is a serious crime. Document forgery. Fraud. If we can prove this, your daughter could go to prison." "Good," I said. "I want you to prove it. I want every detail. Every move she makes. Everything. It will cost about $3,000 for a complete investigation. Are you willing to pay that?" $3,000. That was almost all the money I had left in savings. Money I had been keeping for emergencies. For my old age. So, I would not be a burden to anyone. "I am willing," I told him. And that is how it began. For the next 4 months, I lived 2 lives. On the outside, I was Margaret Collins, the sweet mother, the kind grandmother, the old lady who baked cookies and asked about everyone's day. On the inside, I was someone else, a hunter, a strategist, someone waiting for the perfect moment to catch her prey. James brought me reports every single week. Photographs of Rachel meeting a man at coffee shops. Recordings of conversations where they planned every step of the theft. Documents proving how they had forged my signature multiple times. Each report broke my heart a little more, but it also made me stronger. I discovered that Daniel knew everything. My quiet son, who never caused trouble. The boy who used to cry when I left him at daycare. Now he was helping his sister steal from me. Not actively, but by staying silent. And silence is just another kind of betrayal. I also found out why Rachel was doing this. Debt. Massive debt. Credit cards maxed out. Loans she could not pay. She had been living way beyond her means for years. Buying expensive clothes and fancy cars to impress people who did not care about her. My house was worth $400,000. If she got it in her name, she could sell it or take out a mortgage to pay her debts. And I would be the sacrifice, she made to save herself. One day James came to my house with an envelope. "Mrs. Collins," he said, "we found this. It is a copy of the document they filed with the county. The signature is clearly fake. I hired a handwriting expert who can testify in court that this is not your signature." I opened the envelope. There it was, the fraudulent document. My supposed signature at the bottom. But it was not my signature. It was a bad copy. Any expert could see it. "We also found something else," James continued. "The notary who supposedly certified this document does not exist. They used the name of a notary who died 5 years ago. It is complete fraud." I felt something burn inside me. Not just anger anymore. Certainty. I had everything I needed to destroy them. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You need a lawyer. A good one. I know someone. Her name is Patricia Turner. She specializes in family fraud cases. If anyone can help you, it is her." I called Miss Turner that same week. She was a woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes and a firm voice. I showed her everything. Every document. Every photograph. Every recording. She studied it all for over an hour in complete silence. Then she looked at me. "Mrs. Collins, you have a very strong case. Very strong. But I need to ask you something important. Are you prepared for what will happen? Your daughter will likely go to prison. Your son might be charged as an accomplice. This will destroy your family." "They destroyed my family first," I said. "I just want justice." Miss Turner nodded. "Then we will get it for you." We made a plan. We would wait for Rachel to make her final move. Let her think she won. And then when she felt most confident, most secure, we would take everything from her. "The element of surprise is critical," Miss Turner explained. "If she suspects you know anything, she could destroy evidence or run. We need her to feel invincible, to believe she already won." So I waited. I pretended. I acted like nothing was wrong. I continued being the kind mother, the grandmother who needed help opening jars. I became invisible, insignificant, exactly what they wanted me to be. And while they thought I was a foolish old woman, I was building the case that would destroy them. Until tonight, the Christmas dinner. The moment Rachel chose for her grand announcement. The investigator had warned me it was coming. Rachel wanted an audience. She wanted witnesses. She wanted everyone to see her take everything from me. And I let her. I gave her exactly what she wanted. Now, sitting in my car after calling Miss Turner, I felt something I had not felt in months. Peace. Not the peace of giving up. The peace of knowing justice was close. The peace of someone who had done everything right and now just had to wait. I drove to a small hotel on the other side of town. I had a room reserved. A simple place where I could think. Where I could breathe before what was coming next. Because tomorrow the real battle would begin. And this time I had all the weapons. The hotel room was basic. A bed with white sheets. A wooden desk. A window overlooking a quiet street. Nothing special. Just a space where I could exist without feeling crushed. I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were still shaking slightly. Not from fear. From emotions I had been holding inside for too long. I looked at my phone. 5 missed calls from Daniel. 3 text messages from Rachel. I did not open them. Not yet. First, I needed to remember. To go back to the beginning. To understand how we ended up here. I closed my eyes and let my mind travel back 40 years. I was 24 when I married Thomas. He worked at a furniture factory. We lived in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment where you could hear the neighbors fighting through the walls. Rachel was born a year later. Daniel came 2 years after that. 2 beautiful children who filled my life with purpose. But that apartment was too small, too noisy, too unstable for raising a family. I remember the night Thomas and I decided we needed our own house. We were sitting in the cramped kitchen with bills spread across the table. He was smoking a cigarette. I was adding numbers in a notebook. "We cannot keep living like this," I said. "The kids need a yard. A place to play." Thomas sighed and put out his cigarette. "A house costs money. We do not have Eleanor. We can barely pay rent." "Then we will earn more," I replied. "I will get another job. 2 jobs if I have to." And I did exactly that. For the next 15 years, I worked myself to the bone. In the mornings, I cleaned houses in wealthy neighborhoods where the women treated me like I was invisible. In the afternoons, I worked at a laundromat folding other people's clothes. On weekends, I baked pies and cakes to sell. Every dollar I earned after paying rent and buying food and clothes for the children went into an old coffee can hidden under the kitchen sink. $5 here, $10 there. Sometimes just quarters and dimes. But slowly those coins turned into bills. Thomas worked overtime at the factory. He would come home with splinters in his hands and exhaustion in his eyes. But he never complained. We both shared the same dream. A house. A place that belonged to us. Rachel and Daniel grew up never knowing the sacrifices we made. They had clean clothes and food on the table. New school supplies every year. Small gifts at Christmas. They never went without. They never knew that sometimes I skipped meals so they could eat. When Rachel turned 10, she started making comments. Little remarks that seemed innocent at the time. My friend Jessica has a huge house, she would say. She has her own bedroom with a bathroom.
Why do not we have something like that?
Because it costs money, I would explain. But we're saving. Someday we will have our own house. She would roll her eyes. All my friends have houses. Only we live in this horrible apartment. Her words hurt, but they reminded me why I was working so hard. Why I was breaking my back cleaning strangers' floors. So my children would not have to feel ashamed of where they lived. Daniel was different. Quieter. He never complained about the apartment. Never asked for things we could not afford. But he also never seemed to notice our struggles. He just lived in his own world. The years passed. The coffee can under the sink filled up. We emptied it into a bank account. The account grew slowly. So slowly. But it grew. When Rachel turned 15, she changed. She became demanding. Materialistic. She wanted designer clothes and expensive shoes. Things her friends had.
Things we could not buy.
Everyone at school has new phones, she would complain. Why do I have to use this old one? Because the one you have works fine, Thomas would say. You do not need a new one just because others have it. Rachel would slam her bedroom door. Stop talking to us for days. Punish us with silence until we gave in and bought her something. Not always what she wanted, but something. That is how she learned to manipulate us. With tantrums. With silence. With fake tears. And we fell for it every single time. Daniel watched it all happen. He never asked for anything. But he also never stood up for anything. He was just there. Present but absent. When Rachel turned 18, we finally had enough money saved. 15 years of sacrifice. 15 years of grueling work. We had enough for a down payment on a house. I remember the day we went to see it. A modest house in a quiet neighborhood. 3 bedrooms. 2 bathrooms. A small yard with space for a garden. Nothing fancy. But it was perfect. This is the house, Rachel asked, looking at it with disgust. It is so small. It is ours, I replied, feeling a sting in my chest. It is what we could afford with our hard work. She sighed dramatically. I was hoping for something better. But we bought it anyway. It cost $200,000. We paid $50,000 as a down payment. Money that took 15 years to save. We took out a mortgage for the rest. The day we moved in, I cried tears of joy. We finally had a home. A place nobody could take from us. Or so I thought. The first few years in the house were good. Thomas and I worked to pay the mortgage. Rachel went to college. Daniel stayed quiet and distant. We planted flowers in the yard. We painted the walls our favorite colors. We filled every corner with our love and our history. Rachel brought friends over sometimes. She always apologized for how small the house was. Always made comments about how her friends lived in better places. But she lived there. Ate there. Slept in a bed we provided. When Thomas died 5 years ago, my world stopped. A heart attack.
Quick.
Without warning. One day he was there laughing in the kitchen. The next day he was gone. Rachel cried at the funeral. Daniel cried too. But their tears dried fast. Within weeks they went back to their lives. I was left alone in that house. surrounded by memories and silence. I paid off the rest of the mortgage with Thomas's life insurance money. After 20 years, the house was finally completely mine. No debts. No payments.
Mine.
I thought that would bring peace. And it did. For a while. But then Rachel started visiting more often. Asking questions about documents. About my will. About my future plans. "Mom, at your age, you should think about these things," she would say. "What happens to the house if something happens to you? The house will be split between you and Daniel when I die," I would answer. "It is in my will." But that was not enough for her. She wanted more. She wanted control. She wanted it now. Not when I died.
Now.
She started going through my things, making comments about how hard it must be to maintain the house alone. "Maybe you should sell it," she would suggest. "You could move into a smaller apartment. Easier to manage." "I am not selling my house," I would say firmly. "This house is all I have left of your father. Everything we built together." She would smile, but it was cold. "Just think about it, Mom. For your own good. For my own good." Those words always sounded like a threat. The comments became constant. Rachel brought brochures for retirement homes. For tiny apartments. For places where people like me could live with fewer responsibilities. "Look at this place, Mom," she would say, showing me pictures. "They have nurses available all day. Activities. You would not have to worry about anything." "I do not need nurses," I would reply. "I am perfectly fine." But she kept pushing. Over and over. Until I stopped listening. Until her visits became something I dreaded instead of enjoyed. And then I found the papers. The forged documents. And everything made sense. It was not concern driving her visits. It was greed. Pure, simple greed. I opened my eyes. The hotel room was still the same.
Small.
Quiet. Safe. I looked at my phone again. 7 missed calls from Daniel now. 5 messages from Rachel. I opened them. "Mom, we need to talk. Please answer. I do not know why you left like that. This is for your own good.
Call me right now."
"You are being ridiculous. Answer your phone." I deleted every message, without replying. I had nothing to say to them. Words were finished. Only actions remained. And tomorrow those actions would begin. I woke up before sunrise. The gray light of dawn crept through the hotel window. I had slept maybe 3 hours. But my mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in months. I showered. Got dressed in simple clothes. Black pants and a gray shirt. Nothing that would draw attention. I pulled my hair into a neat bun. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back was not the same one who left that dinner. There was something different in her eyes. Something harder. More determined. I grabbed my purse and checked out of the hotel. The morning air was cold and fresh. The streets were almost empty. Just a few people heading to work. I drove to a small cafe downtown. I ordered black coffee and sat by the window. 10 minutes later, Miss Turner walked in. She had a strong presence. Dark hair pulled back. A sharp business suit. Leather briefcase in hand. She sat across from me, without smiling. "Good morning, Mrs. Collins. How are you feeling?" "Ready," I said. "Ready to do whatever is necessary." She nodded and pulled out a folder from her briefcase. "Last night, after your call, we activated the plan. I contacted the county records office. They reviewed your house file overnight." She opened the folder. Inside were official documents with seals and stamps. "What they found is conclusive. The document your daughter filed is completely fraudulent. The notary signature belongs to someone who died 5 years ago. The registration number is fake. And your signature, Mrs. Collins, was clearly forged." I felt my chest tighten. I already knew this. But seeing it confirmed officially made it real, in a different way. "The county is willing to testify. This document is fraud. The supposed transfer of ownership never happened. The house is still legally yours. Completely yours." "And Rachel?" I asked. My voice came out colder than I intended. "What happens to her?" Miss Turner looked directly into my eyes. "Forgery of official documents.
Fraud.
Attempted theft. These are serious felonies. She could face 5 to 10 years in prison. 10 years. My daughter could spend 10 years behind bars." the baby I nursed, the child I rocked to sleep. That child was gone. The woman who humiliated me was a stranger. And Daniel, I asked. If we can prove he knew about the fraud and did not report it, he could be charged as an accomplice. Right now, we only have circumstantial evidence. He might get a lighter sentence. Community service. Probation. Maybe a fine. Daniel. My quiet, cowardly son. The boy who never had courage for anything, good or bad. He just let life happen around him. I need you to confirm something, Mrs. Collins. Once we file these charges, there is no turning back. Your daughter will be arrested, prosecuted. Her name will be in the news. The whole family will be exposed. Are you absolutely certain you want to do this? I took a sip of my coffee. It was already cold. Bitter. Miss Turner, I said, putting down the cup. My daughter humiliated me in front of people I have known for years. She called me a guest in the house I bought with 40 years of work. She treated me like trash.
So yes.
I am completely certain. She nodded slowly. Then we proceed. We file the charges today. The arrest warrant will be issued within 48 hours. There is one more thing, Miss Turner added. A strategy one recommend. Instead of having the police arrest her at home, we could arrange a meeting. A controlled confrontation where you can be present. Where she has to face the truth in front of you. Why, I asked. Because the psychological impact will be greater. She needs to see that you are not the helpless victim she thought you were. That while she was planning to destroy you, you were building your defense. That moment of realization, Mrs. Collins, will be your true victory.
Victory.
That word tasted strange, but also necessary. When I asked, 2 days from now, I will ask Rachel to come to my office. Tell her we need to review some final documents about the property. She will think it is part of her plan. But when she arrives, the police will be waiting. And so will you. I nodded.
Perfect. We said goodbye.
Miss Turner left with her briefcase. I sat there for a few more minutes staring out the window at the city waking up. In 2 days, it would all be over. In 2 days, the truth would come out. I left the cafe and walked without direction. I needed to move. To process everything. I passed a flower shop. Colorful bouquets filled the window. Roses, lilies, carnations, flowers I used to plant in my garden. I went inside. The fresh scent wrapped around me. I walked to a bucket of white roses. Beautiful.
Pure.
Can I help you? A young woman asked from behind the counter. I want a bouquet of white roses. The freshest you have. She prepared it carefully, wrapped it in paper, handed it to me. I paid $20. For someone special, she asked, smiling. Yes, I said quietly. Very special. I left the shop with flowers in my hands. I got in my car. I drove to the cemetery where Thomas was buried. I had not visited in months. Too busy surviving. Too busy planning. The cemetery was peaceful. Only a few people visiting distant graves. I walked along stone paths until I reached Thomas's headstone. Simple gray granite with his name and dates carved into it. I knelt in front of it, placed the roses on the grass, touched the cold stone. Hello, my love, I whispered. I am sorry I have not visited. So much has happened. Things we never imagined. The wind rustled through nearby trees.
It was the only sound.
Rachel betrayed us. She tried to steal the house. Our house. The one we built together. But I am not letting her win. I am not letting her destroy everything we worked for. Tears started forming. This time, I did not stop them. I let them fall. I miss you. I wish you were here. I wish you could tell me I am doing the right thing. Because sometimes Thomas I do not know if this is justice or just revenge. And I do not know if there is a difference. I sat there for a long time, talking to stone, talking to memories, talking to myself. When I finally stood up, I felt different. Not peaceful, but clear. Thomas had been a good man, a just man. He would have wanted me to defend what was ours. I got back in the car. The day was moving forward. I had 2 days before the confrontation. 2 days to prepare mentally. 2 days to make sure when the moment came I would be ready. I drove back to the hotel. The room looked the same. Small. Temporary. I sat on the bed, picked up my phone. This time I opened Rachel's messages. She had sent 7 more during the morning. Mom, this is ridiculous. Answer me. I do not understand why you are acting this way. I am just trying to help you. We need to solve this like adults. If you do not answer, I am coming to find you. Stop ignoring me. This is getting out of hand. I read each message with cold calm. Then, I typed one reply. We will see each other soon, Rachel. Very soon. I sent it. Turned off the phone. Lay back on the bed. In 2 days, everything would change. In 2 days, my daughter would learn that underestimating a 65-year-old woman was the biggest mistake of her life. The 2 days crawled by. Every minute felt like an hour. But finally the time arrived. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. I sat in Miss Turner's office in a conference room with glass walls and a long dark table. My hands rested in my lap.
Still. Calm.
Miss Turner stood by the window talking quietly with 2 detectives. A man and a woman. Both in plain clothes. Professional. Serious. She will be here any minute, the lawyer said, checking her watch. I told her we needed to review final documents to complete the property registration. She thinks it is routine. I felt something flutter in my stomach. Not nervousness. Anticipation. Are you ready, Mrs. Collins? Miss Turner asked, walking toward me.
Yes.
My voice sounded stronger than I expected. 10 minutes later, I heard the office door open. Voices at reception. Footsteps in the hallway. Then the conference room door opened. Rachel walked in wearing a confident smile. Stylish dress. High heels. Hair perfectly done. She looked like someone who had just won something important. But her smile disappeared when she saw me sitting there. Mom, she said, stopping in her tracks. What are you doing here? I did not answer. Just looked at her.
Steady. Calm.
Miss Bishop, please take a seat, Miss Turner said, gesturing to a chair across from me. Rachel looked around. Her eyes landed on the 2 detectives standing against the wall. Her expression changed. The confidence started cracking. What is going on here? She asked. Her voice was tense. Miss Turner, you said we were just reviewing papers. Sit down, please. Rachel sat slowly. Her hands were shaking. She was trying to stay composed, but I could see fear growing in her eyes. Miss Turner opened a folder on the table. She took out documents and placed them in front of Rachel. Miss Bishop, these are the documents you filed with the county 3 weeks ago claiming ownership of the house at 342 Magnolia Street. Rachel looked at the papers. Swallowed hard.
Yes.
What is the problem? The problem is that these documents are fraudulent. The notary signature belongs to a deceased person. The registration number is fake. And your mother's signature was forged. The color drained from Rachel's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. That is not true, she finally said weakly. My mother signed those papers. She agreed to it. I never signed anything, I said. My voice cut through the air like a knife.
And you know it.
Rachel looked at me. For a second I saw panic in her eyes.
Pure panic.
Mom, please, she started. There must be a misunderstanding. I was trying to help you. You said the house was too much. I never said that. What you said was that I was old. That I was not in my right mind. That nobody would believe me if I tried to defend myself. Her eyes went wide. She realized I knew everything. That I had known all along. You knew, she whispered. For 4 months. Since the day I heard you planning it on the phone. Since I found the fake documents in my house. I knew every step you took. Every lie you told. And I waited. I waited for the perfect moment for you to fall into your own trap. Rachel stood up suddenly. Her chair fell backward with a crash. This is ridiculous, she shouted. That house should be mine. I am your daughter. I work hard. I have debts. I need that money. And that is why you decided to steal from me. Because your debts, your bad decisions, your wasteful spending were more important than respecting your own mother. You do not understand anything, she screamed. My whole life, I lived with nothing while my friends had everything. That house is the only thing of value you have. You are wasting it. That house, I said, standing up slowly, I bought with 40 years of work. Cleaning floors. baking until dawn, skipping meals so you could eat. And the only reason you think I am wasting it is because it is not in your hands." Rachel opened her mouth, but Miss Turner interrupted. "Miss Bishop, I have here a forensic analysis of the signature on these documents. An expert confirms it does not belong to your mother. We have testimony from bank employees confirming you tried to mortgage the property using false documents. And we have recordings of you discussing the fraud." Rachel froze. Her face went from red with anger to white with terror. "This cannot be happening," she muttered. Miss Turner signaled to the detectives. They stepped forward. "Rachel Bishop," the male detective said, "you are under arrest for forgery of official documents, fraud, and attempted theft. You have the right to remain silent." Rachel backed against the wall. "No," she screamed. "Mom, please. Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them it is not true." I walked toward her slowly until we were face to face. I looked into her eyes that used to be my little girl's, now a stranger's eyes. "Rachel," I said, my voice low but firm, "you had many chances to tell the truth, to do the right thing, to be the daughter I raised. But you chose this. You chose lies, theft, betrayal. Now you face the consequences." "Please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Please do not do this. I am your daughter. My daughter died the day she decided to steal from me. The person I see now is a criminal. And criminals go to prison." The detectives took her by the arms, put handcuffs on her wrists. She was crying, screaming, begging. "Mom, please. I am sorry. I am so sorry." But I did not say another word. I just watched as they led her away. Her cries faded as they took her down the hallway. Then silence. I stood there in that conference room alone with Miss Turner. My legs were shaking. My hands too. Not from fear. From release. "Are you all right, Mrs. Collins?" "Yes, I am all right." And it was true. For the first time in 4 months, I was all right. I left the office. The sun was bright outside. The city continued its normal rhythm. Nobody knew what had just happened. I sat on a bench across the street. I needed a moment to process that what I had planned for months had finally happened. My phone vibrated. A message from Daniel. "Mom, I just heard about Rachel. We need to talk urgently. This is a terrible misunderstanding. Please drop the charges. She is your daughter. We are family." I read it twice, then deleted it without replying. Daniel did not deserve a response. Not after staying silent while his sister planned to destroy me. I stood up, walked to my car. But before getting in, I made a decision. I was not going back to the hotel. It was time to go home. To my real home. The drive felt strange. I knew every street, every corner. But now, everything felt different. When I reached Magnolia Street, my heart beat faster. There it was. My house. Cream-colored walls. The garden I planted. Windows Thomas installed. I parked at the curb. Sat for a few minutes looking at it. This house held so many memories. I got out. Took my keys from my purse. When I reached the door, I noticed the lock had been changed. Of course, Rachel had changed the locks, trying to secure her false ownership. But I had brought the original keys. The ones I kept in the bank safety deposit box. And I had the legal document proving I was the rightful owner. I opened the door carefully. Stepped inside. The silence greeted me. A different silence. This silence was mine again. I walked through the living room. Everything was the same and different. Rachel had moved furniture. Taken photographs off the walls. Family photos. Pictures of Thomas. As if she wanted to erase our history. I went upstairs to my bedroom. The door was closed. I opened it. What I saw took my breath away. Rachel had emptied my room. My bed was gone. My dresser too. My personal belongings were packed in boxes piled in the corner. As if I were trash being thrown out. I sat on the bare floor. And for the first time since this began, I cried without holding back. Not from sadness. Not from pain. From rage. Rage for being treated like nothing in my own home. But also from relief. Because this was over. Because I got back what was mine. I heard a car outside. Footsteps.
The doorbell rang.
I went downstairs, opened the door. It was my friend Linda. She was holding grocery bags and had worry on her face. Margaret dear, I just heard everything. I came as soon as I knew you were back. Are you okay? I hugged her tight. I am okay, Linda. I am okay now. She came inside, left the bags on the kitchen table, started taking out food.
Bread.
Milk.
Coffee.
Fruit. I brought you basics so you can stay here tonight. I figured you would not have food after everything.
Thank you.
You do not know what this means. Linda made coffee. We sat in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I had made thousands of meals. Where Thomas and I planned our future. Tell me everything, Margaret. What happened exactly? I told her the whole story. From discovering the fraud to the arrest. Linda listened silently.
Nodding.
Squeezing my hand when the words got hard. You did the right thing. I know it hurts. I know she is your daughter. But she betrayed you in the worst way. You could not let her win. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh. If I should have given her a chance. She had 4 months to stop. She did not. She went ahead. She humiliated you publicly. That was not a mistake, Margaret. It was a choice to hurt you. She was right. Linda was always right. Now what? I asked. How do I rebuild after my own family betrayed me? Linda took my hands. Now you live, Margaret. You live in your house. Your space. Without fear. Without guilt. You rebuild your way. Without toxic people. We stayed in the kitchen until dark.
Talking.
Remembering. Planning. When Linda left, she promised to return tomorrow to help reorganize. I was alone again. But this loneliness felt different. It felt free. I went back to my empty room. Looked at the boxes. Opened one. Inside were my photographs. My memories. My life packed carelessly. I took out my wedding photo with Thomas. Wiped it clean. Took it to the living room. Placed it back where it always belonged. It is over, my love, I said to the photograph. It is all over. Our house is safe. I sat on the sofa. My living room. My house. And for the first time in 4 months, I felt peace. Tomorrow would bring legal proceedings. Consequences. Difficult conversations. But tonight I just wanted to be here. In the place I built. In the home nobody would ever take from me again. I closed my eyes. And finally I slept soundly. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of legal process as Rachel's case moved through court. 3 weeks of exactly the calls Miss Turner predicted. Distant cousins called saying I was too harsh. Rachel's friends showed up begging me to drop charges. I even got a letter from the mother of Rachel's accomplice pleading for compassion. To all of them, I gave the same answer. I was not dropping anything. The charges would stand. Daniel tried visiting twice. The first time I did not open the door. The second time, he called the police saying he was worried about me. Officers arrived. Verified I was perfectly fine. Warned him not to return without permission. He did not come back. Miss Turner kept me updated on every development. The prosecutor decided to charge Daniel as an accomplice. Lesser charges, but he would have a criminal record. His lawyer was trying to negotiate a deal where he would testify against Rachel for reduced sentence. Rachel's trial date was set for a Tuesday in April.
I would have to testify.
Sit on the stand and tell my story in front of a judge, jury, and my daughter. The thought terrified me, but it also gave me closure. The night before trial, I could not sleep. I sat in the living room looking at photographs on the walls. Thomas and me at our wedding. The children when they were small. Happy holidays. A whole life captured in frames. At 6 in the morning I got up, showered, put on a simple gray dress, pulled my hair back. I looked in the mirror and practiced staying calm. I could not show weakness. I had to be strong. Linda arrived at 8 to go with me. Miss Turner waited on the courthouse steps. Professional suit. Folder of documents. Good morning, Mrs. Collins. Are you ready? I know this will not be easy. But remember, you have the truth on your side. Just tell them what happened.
Be honest. Be direct.
We entered the building. Went through security. Up to the 3rd floor, where the trial would be held. The courtroom was filling up. I recognized faces. neighbors, relatives, strangers who were probably Rachel's friends. I sat in the front row next to Linda. Miss Turner sat with the prosecution team. Then the side doors opened, and they brought Rachel in.
I had not seen her since the arrest.
I almost did not recognize her. She had lost weight. Her face looked thin. Hair hung lifelessly. She wore a simple suit. She no longer looked confident and cruel. She looked small, broken. Our eyes met for a second. I saw something in her gaze. Regret, maybe. But it did not matter anymore. The judge entered. We all stood. The trial began. The prosecutor presented the case step by step, showed the forged documents, called the handwriting expert who explained how the signature was faked, presented recordings of Rachel planning the fraud. Each piece of evidence was damning. Then I was called to the stand. I walked forward, legs shaking, put my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, sat in the chair. Mrs. Collins, please tell the jury how you discovered your daughter was planning to steal your house. I took a deep breath, started telling my story. About the afternoon, I heard the phone conversation. Finding hidden documents. The 4 months gathering evidence. The dinner where Rachel humiliated me. Every moment of betrayal. As I spoke, I looked at the jury. 12 strangers holding my daughter's future in their hands. I saw compassion in some faces, disgust in others. They were all listening intently. Rachel's lawyer tried discrediting me during cross-examination. Suggested I was confused. That maybe I signed the documents and forgot. That at my age memory problems were common. He insinuated this was revenge because Rachel suggested I needed help. But I stayed calm, answered every question clearly, pointed out I had passed a full medical exam proving my mind was sharp, recalled every detail precisely. I did not let him make me doubt myself. After my testimony came the accomplice who had forged the documents. He confirmed Rachel paid him $5,000, that she gave specific instructions, that she knew it was completely illegal. Then Daniel testified. He looked miserable on the stand, admitted he knew what his sister was doing, that he tried to stop her but not very hard, that he eventually decided it might be better for me.
His testimony was weak.
Even I could see the jury did not believe him. The trial lasted 3 days. 3 days of testimony, evidence, arguments. Finally, the time came for the verdict. The jury retired to deliberate. We waited 2 hours. 2 eternal hours. When the jury returned, the foreman stood. In the case of the state versus Rachel Bishop on the charge of forgery of official documents, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of attempted theft, we find the defendant guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Rachel collapsed in her chair. Her lawyer held her up. Some friends in the audience cried. But I felt relief. Deep relief, washing over me. Justice had won. Truth had won. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge sentenced Rachel to 8 years in prison. No probation. No reduced sentence. 8 full years. Daniel received 2 years probation and 300 hours community service. His name on a criminal record. His reputation destroyed. Neither contacted me again after sentencing. 6 months have passed since then. 6 months of learning to live again. To breathe without betrayal crushing my chest. To walk through my house without fear. The garden is blooming again. I planted new roses. Put a new bench by the tree Thomas planted. In afternoons I sit there with tea watching the sun set. Linda visits often. Sometimes we cook. Other times we just sit in silence enjoying company. Miss Turner became more than my lawyer. She became a friend. She calls every few weeks. Invited me to a support group for older women who suffered family, financial abuse. I was hesitant, but I went. Hearing other women's stories made me feel less alone. Less ashamed. Some neighbors stopped talking to me. They say I was too cruel. That a real mother would forgive. But others support me. Who understand what I did was not revenge but justice. Who recognize the courage it takes to defend what is yours even when the thief shares your blood. I received a letter from Rachel 2 months ago. The first communication since trial. 3 pages handwritten. Words about regret. How she finally understood what she did. How prison gave her perspective. It ended asking if I could ever forgive her. I read it twice. Put it in a drawer. Did not answer. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I can find forgiveness in my heart. But that day is not today. Maybe it never will be.
And that is okay.
Forgiveness is not mandatory, especially when the wound is this deep. This house is no longer just a building. It is a symbol, a reminder that I am stronger than anyone thought, that I survived the worst betrayal and came out with my head high. That age is not weakness. Experience is not fragility. Gray hair does not mean I can be walked over without consequences. I stand in front of the mirror some mornings and see a different woman than a year ago. The wrinkles are the same. The silver hair's still there. But something new is in my eyes. A hardness that did not exist before. A certainty of my worth that nobody can take. This house is mine. This life is mine. And nobody will ever take from me what is mine again. Every morning I wake up in my bed.
My room.
My house.
And that is enough.
The family I had is broken. But in its place I found something more valuable. I found myself. I found my strength. I found my voice. And I discovered that sometimes to save what matters most you have to be willing to lose everything. It was worth it. Every tear. Every sleepless night. Every moment of doubt. It was worth it because now I am free. Free from guilt. Free from manipulation. Free to live my life on my own terms. This house is mine. This life is mine. And that is all I need.